Hello and welcome back to Premier League Primetime. Davies is here back again. Here to bring you what better way to look at deadline day and an overview of this January transfer window than with me, yours truly, looking at some of the big deals that have happened over this window, some of the main deals that happened this window, looking at some of the main departures, and overall, what this means for the clubs involved, for the player, and overall complexity of the season. And this is purely opinionated. If you think differently, feel free to leave in the comments below what you think. If your top 10 may have been different from mine, or if your top 5 departures have been different from mine, feel free to leave that in the comments below. But let's just get right into this. Number 10, we have Matt Ryan. He's been at Brighton for some time now. Has come to Arsenal on loan to strengthen that goalkeeping department. Of course, we all know that Arsenal did sign a Emi Martinez replacement in Alex Runnerson, but that he just has not been great at all. Catastrophic performances in the Europa League, and particularly that Carabao Cup quarterfinal against Manchester City, more or less, put a big, megahorn inside Mikel Arteta's head and screamed, "We need a goalkeeper." I'm in terms of his experience, he definitely has all the Premier League experience that you need in a goalkeeper. He also played for Valencia in the past. This is someone who I think he's definitely not going to be number one. Burnley will have that number one spot 100%. But this is someone who I think, of course, they're not in the FA Cup anymore, but this is someone that for the remainder of the season will definitely look to push Leno. Will he get games? Perhaps in the Europa League, maybe. But other than that, I really can't see where he's gonna get games. With all due respect to Matt Ryan, I don't see him really warming the bench, but he goes in at number 10 because Arsenal definitely needed a goalkeeper of some kind because Alex Runnerson has been abysmal. He's been dreadful since signing, but he's a backup goalkeeper, and I think he costs like £1 million or something from Dijon in France. Hopefully you got that one right. But yeah, at number 10, we have Matt Ryan. At number 9, we have Willian Jose, Brazilian. He's 29 years old, coming into Wolves on loan from Real Sociedad. He's a proven striker in La Liga. He's been in and around the league for a while. He's definitely been playing for a very, very good side in Real Sociedad. Hasn't been playing too much. Whether it's Alexander Isak, I mean, I don't watch La Liga all that much, but I know Alexander Isak is there, and he's doing a very good job, or he has been doing a very good job since he's been there, keeping out of the team. I think this is a good move for Wolves. Even though they bought Catrone back, they literally just re-sent him back on loan into Valencia. It's very clear that he's not a part of Nuno Espirito Santo's plans, and they need someone to for the time being to have cover for Raul Jimenez. They have Fabio Silva, but he's 17 years. I think he's 17, 18 years old, very, very young, and you can't put all your hope and expectation into someone so young. But to have someone as a veteran presence like Willian Jose on loan till the end of the season, I think there's like a 20 million buy option or something like that. It's not a bad deal for Wolves to do, and I think looking at looking at the bigger picture, is he the most amazing forward? No, but is he going to give Wolves something a little bit different? I think so. I think he will give Wolves a bit something different. I think he's going to definitely, as I say, he's going to give some experience. He's definitely going to be sort of like a target man. I mean, again, and I'll say this right now, a lot of these signings I don't know a whole lot about. So I'm not going to come on here and talk and just pull things out of my bum and say I know things that I actually don't, because that's just not the kind of person that I am. I say things how I see it. I know more about Willian Jose than some of the other signings I have in here. But yeah, I think he's just going to add something completely different to Wolves, and something that they definitely do need. Number 8, and this one pains me, Moises Caicedo, arriving from Independiente del Valle for 4.5 million pounds, and this was a player that I thought we were going to sign. I thought Manchester United were bound to sign. The scout that he had clearly been scouted. Personal terms have been agreed, everything had been done, and then of course, what happens? The Glazers don't want to pay 4.5 million for a player who could be an absolute gem. And honestly, and as a Manchester United fan, I hope he tears it up with Brighton, because then maybe the Glazers will look and will just think, what have we done wrong? It'll probably happen again, just knowing who they are, but without being biased, someone that United definitely missed out. And what will he bring to Brighton? He will bring, and again, this is someone who I definitely don't really know well, but I've seen just a very, very small bit of him, some highlights and whatnot. And he seems like the kind of player that definitely has a lot of kind of energy. Like for me, he will definitely be very similar to what Yves Bissouma is in terms of his energy and his work rate. He's definitely someone who's a bit creative as well. And he's on the more creative side of things, but he has that tenacity. I think Moises Caicedo is going to do Brighton very, very well. I think he's a player that will suit Brighton perfectly. Imagine a midfield pairing of Bissouma and Caicedo. I mean that's a solid Premier League pairing right there. Sure, it's not one of the best in the Premier League, but that could be a very, very solid pairing. Whether it's Caicedo and Bissouma, Lallana and Caicedo, Alzate and Casino, or Casino, Davy Proper and Caicedo, Pascal Gross and Caicedo. The options are there to for Brian and for Graham Potter, and it really just depends on how he and what two-man midfield that he chooses to play with. But yeah, he's in at number 8, Moises Caicedo. Number 7, Morgan Sansone, coming in from Marseille to Aston Villa for around 15.5 million pounds, and plus maybe some further add-ons, do like objectives and all that. And this is, in my opinion, a fantastic sign. This is someone I definitely know a little bit more about, and he was very, very good at Marseille. One thing I will say, he will add some excellent quality depth into that Villa midfield. Dean Smith is definitely beefing up that the middle of the park. And now, and thinking from the Aston Villa perspective now, when you have now your midfield options of Nakamba or Naka Kamba, I don't know his exact name, but I think he's a decent enough central defensive midfielder. You have John McGinn, you have Douglas Luiz, you have Ross Barkley at the 10, you have Anwar El Ghazi, Jack Grealish can play there as well. And now he had Morgan Sanson to it, who is lots of years in the top flight in France. With Marseille, he has Champions League experience with Marseille. And I can only say positive things about this signing. I know Leicester were in for him. I think Everton were in for him as well. Southampton as well. But yeah, this is a player that he's going to do, whether he starts or not, he's going to be an extremely valuable player to have around Aston Villa, in my opinion. And it's someone who I personally have a lot of high praise for. I think he's someone who, for me, he's someone who's more of on the defensive side of things. He's not exactly a central defensive midfielder. He definitely is very good defensively. I think he's better defensively than going forward, but he definitely can make surging runs forward. And for me, this is a very good signing. Very good signing. So I'm in at number 7, Morgan Sanson. Number 6, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, deadline day. He Mr. Versatile. Mr. plays literally everywhere on the pitch. 23 years of age. He's gone to West Brom on loan. And this is a win-win. Maybe not on our side, but it's a win-win for both West Brom and Maitland-Niles. Maitland-Niles leaving on loan. There's only one reason. The Euros are coming up. and Maitland-Niles wants to try and keep hold of Gareth Southgate's fate, that faith. And this is a very good signing for West Brom. And definitely someone that could play in a lot of positions. With the players that West Brom have, he definitely should be starting. With the quality or the lack of quality that West Brom have, and bringing in someone of Maitland-Niles to come in and fill in more or less wherever they need to fill in. And personally, again, as I said, it's a good signing. It's good for all parties. And yeah, this is someone who I think could be brought in, maybe to, how do you say it? What's the word I'm looking for? Could be brought in as someone to maybe provide a middle ground, I guess. Maybe for some of the youngsters coming through, to bring in someone of maybe similar age, but not too old, not too young, but also someone who's been playing at a big club, so he knows what it means, and he can bring some of that mentality into West Brom. It's a good signing. Do I think he'll stay at West Brom? Definitely not. I think he'll probably go back to Arsenal unless if something happens and whatnot. No, I don't see him staying at West Brom past the end of the season, but it's definitely a very, very good player to have. So in at number 6, Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Number 5, and we have Jean-Philippe Mateta, coming in on loan from Mainz, 23 years of age. And this is someone who this is a kind of player that Crystal Palace have been crying out for ages. They have cried out for someone young, someone with pace, and someone dangerous, in the attack. Yes, we know that they have Wilfried Zaha, but as we've seen times this season, when Wilfried Zaha is not there, Palace definitely lack, that pace going forward. As well as Eze's done, he's not a striker; he's a winger, or he's been playing on the wing. And for me, Jean-Philippe Mateta, I mean, this is a guy who Tottenham are after, or Tottenham have been after, and that Mourinho reportedly wanted, as a backup to Harry Kane. This guy was apparently scoring goals for fun in the Bundesliga. Again, for all my Bundesliga fans, or for all the Bundesliga fans that watch PLPT, if you know anything about Mateta, please put it in the comments. Say something about him. It would definitely help fill me in. But again, for the games I've seen of him, he seems like a very good player to me, in my opinion. And unlike Christian Benteke, Michy Batshuayi, and even Jordan Ayew, he will definitely provide some mobility, and he'll definitely provide some pace in that attack that Crystal Palace, desperately need. And he can also hold the ball up very, very well. And for me, he goes in at number 5 because this is a position that Palace have desperately needed for a very long time. For me, was that enough? No, I still feel like maybe they could have gotten a center back, and maybe another creative player to help boost their attack. But that's a very, very good signing. I don't know if in my own predicament and predictions, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he'll stay at Palace past the end of the season. But regardless if he does, I hope everything goes well for him, because if everything does go well for him and that's all they get of him, Crystal Palace fans are going to be deeply disappointed. But yeah, in at number 5, Jean-Philippe Mateta. In at number 4, Josh King, deadline day signing. I was actually about to put Joe Willock in at number 4. But for me, the one thing, and I put Josh King instead because this is very similar to this is extremely similar to Jean-Philippe Mateta. Josh King is obviously someone I definitely know loads about. Being a Manchester United fan myself and seeing him in the Premier League over, the past over the past 4.5, 5 years and whatnot. Josh King is someone who's he's definitely a mobile player. Manchester United, of course, were linked to him hundreds of times, and I'm actually so happy he signed for Everton because we're not going to be linked to him anymore. With all due respect to Josh King. But this is someone who Everton very, very, very desperately need. If Calvert-Lewin got injured, they would be left with Cenk Tosun, and he doesn't really fit Ancelotti's style of play. Do I think this was someone who Ancelotti wanted from the get-go? Probably not. But is this someone who would suit Ancelotti and his style of play more than a Cenk Tosun? Probably. And for me personally, um, um, £5 million, because in the summer he would have gone for free. So Bournemouth chose to cash him when they did. And apparently I've been hearing reports that this is a loan. I'm not exactly sure. My sources haven't really told me all the details of everything about it. But yeah, this is definitely a signing that that was definitely coming at some point. I predicted at the start of the window that Everton would sign a striker of some kind. They needed to sign a striker. And shout out to OG as well, because he said the same thing. And if you're watching this, shout out to you, OG. It's definitely someone I think and it'll bring Everton something a little bit different than a target man will. He's definitely more of a mobile kind of player. He definitely drifts around. He's not just your straight number 9 who will sit there, hold up the ball. But he's definitely someone who you can hit the ball off of. He is a focal point, but he's not like a full-on classic focal point that you're gonna have up front. But for me, £5 million. You know what? A Premier League veteran who did decently to okay well in the Premier League for £5 million. You know what? Assuming his wages aren't crazy, I think it's worth a punt. It's £5 million into any top level Premier League club. Someone like Everton, I mean, that's nothing. So yeah, in at number 4, Josh King. Number 3, I just counted this as a January signing because he came in January, but this was actually done in the summer, but didn't come until January. Amad Diallo, from the Ivory Coast, 18 years of age. This was more or less our solution to when Manchester United failed to sign Jadon Sancho and failed to sign Ousmane Dembele. We splashed £40 million on Amad Diallo. And this is someone who I've actually been watching a lot of since that last day of the window, because I want to see what he's about. I've seen him play in the Champions League this league campaign. I've seen him play a good amount of games in Serie A, and he looks like a very, very exciting young player. I saw him with the under-23s. I've been watching him train with the first team, and he seems like an exhilarating young talent. Hopefully Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can put him on the bench or throw him in for a couple games. For me, Amad Diallo should have been thrown in at the Sheffield United game. But let's not talk about Sheffield United because that just that still winds me up. Honestly, to this day, that game still freaking winds me up. Anyways, getting back to Amad Diallo, he's someone who I think is going to bring Manchester United something a little bit different. He's definitely someone who loves to take guys on. And one thing I've noticed that he had that, I mean, maybe not on the most consistent of basis, but definitely something that I've seen him do. He could put some good crosses in the box. And if there's one thing that United lack, it's a winger that puts a cross in the box. And that's why we were so keen on that was one of the reasons why Jadon Sancho would have been a perfect fit. I mean, yeah, of course, he's the typical United, profile, young English Brexit FC. Of course, very talented player. But one thing that he definitely does very well is cross the ball in the box. And that's something that stuck out to me about Amad Diallo. And if this guy gets, and assuming that that eventually we'll see him get games in the first team, I'm very excited to see what he's all about. He's very young, and he has and he has all the potential and everything ahead of him. And this is something that I can only be positive about in what has been a quite abysmal and shambolic transfer window again from United. That is something that you can, at least as a Manchester United fan, take away as something good. So there, he definitely is. There he is in at number 3, Amad Diallo. Number 2, we have Martin Odegaard, on loan for Real Madrid, coming in to Arsenal, joining his Real Madrid loanee Dani Ceballos. And this went in at number 2 for a very, very, very simple reason. If there's one thing that Arsenal have been crying out for, and if there's one thing that Arsenal have been missing, it's a creative midfielder. Mesut Ozil was bombed out of the squad. It was very clear from Mikel Arteta that Ozil was just coming nowhere near the squad, whether it was him or the Cronkies or Edu or Vinay or whoever it was that effectively ruled him out. And I mean, in my honest opinion, Odegaard is a fantastic talent. He showed at Real Sociedad how good of a player he is. Came back to Real Madrid. Zidane was going to promise him more first-team football, but he wasn't getting the games, so he got sent on loan again. And when I look at this deal, for me, it could go two ways. And the reason why it could go two ways is that I think back to when Arsenal, when Unai Emery brought in Denis Suarez, and Denis Suarez at that time was a very, very good player, and I think he's still doing decently well at whether it's Villarreal or Celta Vigo. I don't know. I don't know. But that when you look back at that deal went horrifically wrong. Everything went wrong in that deal. And for me, this Odegaard thing could go two ways. I think Odegaard is a very, very good player, as I said. And one thing that he will bring some athleticism, and he will bring energy. He will definitely bring some energy and some urgency into that number 10 spot. And overall, it's just a very good signing. I mean, I don't watch Odegaard week in, week out, but for what I have seen of him, he's a very, very good player. And I think personally, in the system that Arteta wants to play, I think he's perfectly suited for that. So there he is at number 2, Martin Odegaard. And at number 1, it was very, very obvious who was going to be at number 1. Very, very, extremely obvious. Liverpool. Today they went and I hate praising Liverpool. I absolutely hate it. But I mean, I have to hold my hands up and give all the props to them, because they did what a big club does when they have an issue. And keep in mind, they had 24 hours to sign center backs. And they went out and got not just one, but 2 center backs. And one of these center backs is one of the top prospects in Europe that sides like Bayern Munich were looking at him. Well, we'll go into the first one. Ben Davies, and no, it's not the one for Tottenham, because when I first saw Ben Davies, I'm just like, huh? They're getting Ben Davies from Tottenham. I don't know why they want him. No. He's English, 25 years of age. Costs around 1.5 million pounds from Preston. This and I'm gonna be very, very clear here. This is someone who I barely know anything about. I've heard good things about him. I've heard that he's done very, very good things with Preston. But for the people who watch him week in, week out, tell me more about Ben Davies, because I really don't know a whole lot about him, and that's honestly as much as I can tell you about him. But one player I can talk to you about is Ozan Kabak. This guy is quality. I mean, this is a quality center back. Um, Signed on loan from Schalke. And if he does very well, there's a 20 million buy option. And for me, looking at this, it almost it's more or less just like shooting yourself in the foot if you're Manchester United. Beyond, I hate to keep bringing them up, but they are the epitome of clubs that shoot themselves in the foot in transfer windows and in terms of backing their managers. I mean, these deals got done so quickly, so quick, that so quickly. It's unbelievable. Ozan Kabak, I have seen him in Germany, and he's big, strong, commanding, and he's 20 years old, 20 years old. Um, he's an incredible player. And for me, honestly, assuming that take all Liverpool center backs, and of course you have Van Dijk, right? For me, assuming Kabak stays, you know what? I mean, he could take that spot from Joe Gomez. He can 100% take that spot from Joe Gomez. I mean, imagine a partnership of Virgil van Dijk and Ozan Kabak at center back. My word, absolutely frightening. It would scare the life out of me. And what Liverpool now have is some security, and the midfielders that were playing at center back can now go about and go and play in their natural midfield positions. Jordan Henderson has been stuck playing at center back. He's clearly not comfortable there for the games that Liverpool have played. It's definitely not his number one position. But now Liverpool have done the job off the pitch, so that Jordan Henderson can now go back and do his normal job on the pitch. And for me, looking at this, this pair of signings was definitely easily, the number one two signings of January. Maybe not the number one signings in terms of maybe the best player, the most exciting ones, but in terms of just in terms of importance to club, this was light years away from everybody else as being the most important. So there you have it at number one, Ben Davies and Ozan Kabak. And now we're going to look at the, in my opinion, the top 5 winter departures. And we're going to start at Sebastian Haller, literally brought in at the start of in the summer 2019. That summer, seen as the man to give them goals. Had done brilliantly the year before with Frankfurt. Him and Luka Jovic and Kostic and Rebic, all tearing it up. With Frankfurt. West Ham paid, a big amount of, I think it was about 25-30 million pounds, big amount of money. And this is West Ham, massive amount of money for West Ham. David Moyes comes in, and he made it very clear, that he preferred Mikel Antonio up front. And Mikel Antonio justified that by scoring goals almost every game. And Mikel Antonio was doing a tremendous job with David Moyes. Sebastian Haller was still giving games. He was still scoring some goals. But David Moyes made it very clear that he was going to be relegated as the backup striker. And Ajax came in with a 20.2 million pound bid, and West Ham said, "You're out the door." And Haller would also be playing first team football. So Haller also wanted to leave on that aspect as well. West Ham got very good money, and he'll go right into Ajax's first team. And Jasklan Huntelaar has gone to Schalke, so he'll definitely slot right in and fill that void up front. So there he's at number 5, Sebastian Haller. And at number 4, and Andre's favorite player of all time, the player that he wants to see Tottenham spend £100 million on, Takumi Minamino. Very adaptable. He could play attacking midfield. He could play on the wing. He could play up front. Uh, the 26-year-old Japanese man can. He's a very, very, very dynamic player. Work rate. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of tenacity. He offered something totally different to that Liverpool attack. Did he have the sort of, I don't know, what do you call it? Did he have score? Did he have, like the technical ability or the skills that Sadio Mane or Mohamed Salah or even Bobby Firmino had? No, he didn't. But one thing that he did have is that he always put a shift in. He would provide pace and some energy. And he was very good at replacing those tired legs. For the games that he's played this season, again, Aiden, if you're watching this, it'd be great if you could fill in the comments. But you've seen him Minamino because I know you've seen him week in, week out. For me, I think this is a win on all sides. I think Liverpool are stacked in their attack. I mean, we have their front three, as I just said. Diogo Jota is out injured. You have Shaqiri. You have Origi. Oxlade-Chamberlain can fill in there. I think even Curtis Jones has played in that position as well. I mean, Liverpool have players in those positions, and they can afford to let Minamino go. And he's going to a very, very good club in Southampton, a team that's 100% competing for European football, specifically more for the Europa League. He's going to a very, very good club, and he'll definitely bring Ralph Hutenhuddle a lot. He'll definitely be a very, very good piece to add in the attack. And he definitely in their high pressing game that Southampton love to play, he fits the system perfectly. So it's a win-win for all three sides. So they have it at number 4, Takumi Minamino. At number 3, it was bound to happen at some point. Jesse Lingard finally leaves Manchester United on loan to West Ham. And this was just something that was written in the books. It was something that it's a win. It's a win for all parties. Jesse, I like Jesse Lingard. I'll start with this right now. I like Jesse Lingard. I really, really do like him. But he's not going to play games at Manchester United. I'm gonna make this very clear. He's not going to play many games at United, especially with their rival Donny van de Beek. And Donny van de Beek barely even plays much. And for me, and again, he's going to, for me, this is the exact same as the Takumi Minamino situation. He's going to a team who's a very, very good side at the moment, West Ham. West Ham, could be competing for things. I think they're in 5th or 6th place in the table right now. And for me, I think Jesse Lingard could do very, very well at West Ham. He played under David Moyes. The two of them know each other, of course, at their time together at Manchester United. And for me, Jesse Lingard, for me, he walks into that first team every single week. Yes, I know, they have Manuel Lanzini and Sai Benrahma. But Jesse Lingard, for me, I think this season he hasn't been better than Benrahma. But for me, I think he still walks into that first team. I think Jesse Lingard will 100% bring that work rate. He's and also for me, and this is the right move for him as well. He's 28 years of age. He's now at this point a bit part player for Manchester United. He's versatile as well, so he can play. He favors the number 10, but he can play off of the left or right wing as well. And for me, it's time for Lingard to go and get some first team football. He doesn't have that many years left. In my opinion, I think he has maybe about 5 or maybe 6 years most at the top level. Um, yeah, so I just think it's about time for this was something that needed to happen. It was bound to happen at some point. And yeah, Jesse Lingard. Uh, and for me as a Manchester fan, I wish Jesse nothing but the best. And hope he does, you know, amazing and tears it up at West Ham. Number two, we have Fikayo Tomori. Um, Someone who was let out on loan by Frank Lampard when he was still Chelsea manager before Thomas Tuchel came in. And it was very clear that Chelsea, the center back options that they had would be enough to keep Tomori out of the first team. For me, I think that was very unfair on Tomori. I thought, he's, in my opinion, I think he's miles better than Christensen. And I think at certain times he's miles better than Zuma. But in terms of the move, this is nothing but a fantastic mood, or that fantastic move for him. He's coming in and or as far as I know, he's starting and playing games for a team who are tied or either 3 points off of first place. Someone who is right in deep in the nick of the title race. And these are valuable minutes that he's getting. And he's playing in a new league, a new environment. And for me, in terms of the fast pace that he's used to playing in England, I think he's going to do very well in Serie A, because Serie A is a lot slower league. So I think he'll bring some of that fast pace mentality, to this AC Milan side. And for me, I think, again, this is a win-win for all parties. I don't think there could be possibility that he stays at AC Milan if he does exceptionally well, but I don't think that'll be the case. But yeah, this was something that needed to happen for his own development. Promising young player, and I think if he for when the summer comes around, if Thomas Tuchel has any brains, he'll definitely keep him around. So there you have it, number two, Fikayo Tomori. And a number one, again, this is going to be something that was very, very obvious. And it's not just one, it's multiple. The Arsenal winter exodus. Now, this is something that's needed to happen for a very, 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 very long time. Players that the old regime signed, the likes of the likes of Ivan Gazidis and them lot, who's now actually at AC Milan, signed on obscene wages, obscenely long contracts, and have just not been good enough in recent times. We'll start with the first one. We'll start with Mesut Ozil. And I was talking about him before. Ever since he signed that contract in January of 2018, there's just been a massive drop off, or there was a massive drop off, and he looked nothing, and I mean nothing, like the Mesut Ozil of old. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And things didn't get better when Emery came in. Emery more or less bombed him out of the squad, or more or less bombed him out of that guaranteed starting spot. And when Arteta first came in, Ozil was a very important part of his plans, and then for whatever reason, again, got bombed out of the squad, and never got his place back. He wasn't even included in the 22-man roster for the Premier League side, and wasn't even included in the roster for the Europa League, and that just says something. But he's gone. He goes to Fenerbahce, his boyhood club, someone he supported as a fan. And this is kind of like a dream come true, kind of move for him. So yeah, and this is somewhere which I think Ozil, he signed a 3-year contract. I think this is probably going to be last move of his career, unless he decides to go to MLS or whatnot. But yeah, yeah, that's a perfect move for him. That contract needed to be terminated. I mean, £350,000 a week. I mean, oh my word, yeah, that needed to be that needed to be terminated. So you have it, Mesut Ozil. The next one, I'm just going by I'm going by the portraits I have here. The next one on the right is Socrates. Um, I think he's on about, I think, almost 100 grand a week. Came in, had a very good first season under Unai Emery. But then that second season, he was just absolutely dreadful. And especially when Mikel Arteta came in, he did not suit his playing style at all. Playing out the back, playing that, tiki-taka-esque kind of football. It was just not meant to be. Barely gave Socrates any games. And yeah, it was very, very clear and obvious that he would not be playing anytime soon or anytime at all. And yeah, and his contract got terminated as well. And he joined Olympiacos on a free, and that's the end of Socrates in the Premier League. So there you have it. And finally, the last two on the right, we have Sead Kolasinac and Shkodran Mustafi. We'll start with Kolasinac. He's been someone who's been thrown all over the place in his Arsenal career. His best position is definitely left wing back. But he's been thrown at a left back and a back four, and in a center back in a back three. Had a very good life to Arsenal. Had a very good first season, and then for whatever reason he just dropped off the next season. And look, I'm not trying to give Arsenal player ratings. I mean I'll leave that to AFTV and Sirius. But I think he was making around like 120 grand a week. I mean, that's just obscene amount of money. And yeah, he just was not good enough at the end of the day. Especially when Kieran Tierney came in, it was very clear and obvious that Kieran Tierney was going to be the first choice. And even when Mikel came in and took over, he was still the same. He's gone on to Schalke on loan, but his contract expires in the summer, which I cannot imagine Arsenal renewing. And I think he'll probably stay at Schalke. He is their captain now. So I think he'll probably sign a contract with Schalke at the end of this. And lastly, we have Shkodran Mustafi and choosing rest. I mean, in terms of meme status, this guy's up there with Phil Jones. Same thing as Kolasinac, came in, brilliant start, left for Arsenal. And then he got the injuries, and then he just never looked the same. Every game, he just looked like a nervous wreck, dived in everywhere. And he was just absolutely awful. He was making over 100 grand a week. His contract got terminated as well. And he's joined Schalke on a free. And it's just that simple. Shkodran Mustafi is not Arsenal quality. In terms of the pecking order, that was made very, very clear. So this entire Arsenal winter exodus is very clear and obvious that would be at number one. Anyways, thank you for watching this January transfer window overview. If you liked what you saw, smash like on this video. And if you want to keep up with our platforms on Instagram and Spotify, links are in the description below. We'll be back again tomorrow for episode 20, back with the usual. And wherever you are watching this in the world, have a great day/evening.